The room went silent when the document hit the courtroom desk, a thin folder marked marriage license, Ichen Jolbite Cholshers. Inside, a detail none had dared speak aloud. That before Janelle had ever become Kody's wife, she had already become his stepsister by marriage. Gasps filled the benches. Even Robyn's eyes darted toward Christine, who simply shook her head in disbelief. The judge cleared his throat as if steadying the air itself, but the truth had already escaped. It wasn't illegal, but it was unthinkable. And to a family built on faith, secrecy, and unity, the revelation cracked the foundation wide open. But what the Browns never expected was how that one family tree twist would echo through every marriage, every loyalty, and every truth they'd built on camera. Before we continue, do you think love can survive when family lines blur this much? Let me know in the comments. Paper shuffling echoes through the courtroom. Above, the soft humming of the fluorescent lights reflects off the polished wood benches where the Brown family sits, divided in silent prayer or quiet disbelief. Kody's hands lie flat on the table, his wedding ring glinting faintly under the light, a symbol that once meant unity. Now confusion. The clerk starts to read the dates. Application filed May Ba, Iten Golshers. License approved May, Arser E, Iten Tolshers, and just like that, the timeline rewinds 35 years to the season when two love stories collided accidentally. In that day, Janelle Shriver was a young divorcee trying to put her life back on track within the same close-knit faith community where the Browns were also members. Her mom, Cheryl Usher, had been a widow only for a few years when Cheryl met a kind and steady man named William Wynn Brown, Kody's father. A connection was instant. He was gentle, patient, and his faith sounded soothing, a place where she could be safe again. No one would have believed that this union would birth a future that would test religious tradition and public perception for decades. Two marriages, one of love and the other of faith, were about to intersect in a way no one could have predicted for the Brown family. Henka. It started innocently enough. Janelle met the Brown family through her faith circle years before ever dating Kody. They were warm, open, and deeply devout about their spiritual beliefs in plural marriage. When her mother and Wynn Brown fell in love, Janelle was happy for her. She didn't see any reason to object until the lines between family and destiny started to blur. Tenken. Bye. By late spring of Iten Jobite Joshers, Cheryl and Wynn married. Just 3 months later, in January, Iten Jobite Jolchersan, chronology compressed for story rhythm, Janelle herself would stand before the same family elders and take vows with Kody Brown, her stepbrother, by marriage. It was not a crime. The law allowed it. But in their tight community, it was a whisper that never stopped echoing. The family called it God's irony. The media would later call it the Brown family twist. Janelle was known for her composure, where Christine was emotional and Robyn was protective. Janelle was rational, the anchor. But this moment, the truth read aloud in court, brought back the memory of her wedding day, the look on her mother's face when it really sank in that their marriages had interlocked the family tree like a knot that could never be untied. She remembered the quiet reception held in the same Utah backyard where Kody had grown up, with both her mother and her new father-in-law smiling from opposite ends of the table. There were no big crowds that day, just laughter and an odd sense of déjà vu. The moment was tender, but history was quietly writing a chapter that would confuse viewers decades later. Every family has secrets, but the secret of the Brown family was there, plain as day, on the family tree. Inside the courtroom, Christine's lawyer leans forward. This isn't about biology, he argues. It's about how boundaries blur when families grow faster than trust. His words cut through the room like a knife. He sits still, expression tight. He has always insisted that his marriages were guided by faith, not flesh, that no human relationship could undermine a divine calling. But now, faced with legal scrutiny, those ties look less like divine threads and more like entanglement. Reporters lean in. Judge asks for clarity. A family historian takes the stand, explaining the timeline that TLC viewers once ignored. As a footnote, Mrs. Usher and Mr. Brown married in May. Janelle joined the Brown household 3 months later. Technically, Yes, she became her husband's stepsister by marriage before their own union. The gallery erupts into murmur. The word stepsister sounds heavier than it should, not because sometimes it's not the DNA that binds a family, it's the stories they'd rather keep off the record. Flashback, Janelle, in her mid-20s, carries moving boxes into the Brown family home as Meri, the first wife, stands in the doorway, stiffly smiling. Christine watches from the hall. Kody extends a hand to help her carry a box. That simple gesture, a helping hand, would later be rewatched by fans online as the moment it all began. The camera had captured warmth. No one saw the storm underneath. Behind the smiles was whispered confusion. Meri joked about family tree diagrams needing extra branches. Christine called it God's sense of humor. But to Janelle, it was something more fragile. A reminder that faith could build families, but it could also blur their edges. Sicky. The Browns had built their legacy on love, without limits, but even love has lines you can't cross without losing clarity. In Artendling or War, the case on hand is not about law but legacy. The petition before the court concerns property and inheritance. Who technically qualifies as immediate family? When the judge asks for documentation, the truth spills out like an old family album finally opened. The courtroom is tense, though beneath the formality, there's nostalgia and regret. Kody looks at Janelle. Now, for the first time in years, their eyes meet with something softer than anger. It's not love. It's the quiet acknowledgement of a bond that was never simple and to be understood by outsiders. Christine crosses her arms. Robyn holds her breath. The lawyer closes his folder and says, "Let the record show." Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. The judge nods, and for a moment, everyone in the room remembers how this all started, with two people searching for love and finding it in the same family. History doesn't repeat itself in the Brown family. It interlocks. A short silence ensues. The falling of a pen can be heard loud and clear. Then, a new question hangs in the air, one which the law or faith cannot easily answer. What does it mean when the two worlds of love and law bind a family together and then collide? The air in the courtroom thickens as the bailiff announces the next witness. Footsteps sound outmeasured, deliberate, echoing off the marble walls like a countdown. Christine Brown steps up, her face a mask of composure and quiet fury. She raises her right hand, swears in, and takes her seat. The judge nods. "You may proceed." Okay. Kody sits behind his attorney, jaw clenched. The tension between them is electric. 2 decades of loyalty and resentment, faith and fatigue, staring each other down across the courtroom floor. Christine adjusts the microphone. Her voice does not shake. It cuts through the silence. It is not about marriage licenses, Your Honor. It's about how the truth got twisted into obedience. The audience stirs. Even Robyn leans forward, eyes shining. Janelle folds her hands in her lap, not meeting Christine's eyes. Every word in this room carries history. Every silence hides a confession waiting to break free. Christine continues, her tone steady but bitterly nostalgic. "When I joined the family, we believed our unity made us stronger. But when that document came out, it changed everything. Suddenly, the man who preached equality was also my sister wife's stepbrother. You can call it technical, but for me, it was trust, and trust broke that day." Her lawyer hands the judge a folder. Inside, screenshots, diary entries, episode transcripts, years of on-camera harmony, now serving as evidence of control and confusion. Kody's attorney immediately stands up. "Objection, irrelevant. These are emotional reflections, not legal facts." But the judge raises a hand. "Let her finish." Christine's breath catches, then steadies. "When you live your life on camera, Your Honor, emotions are fact." The murmur spreads through the benches, reporters scribbling faster. Flashback, the camera cuts to a memory. The sister wives' living room years earlier. Kody sits at the head of the table, voice booming with conviction. "We are not divided by the world's definitions of family. We define ourselves." At that moment, the wives nod. The children laugh. But behind each smile, a question hums unspoken. How close is too close? That same question now echoes through this courtroom like a haunting refrain. Faith once held them together, but now that same faith is the evidence tearing them apart. Kody's lawyer calls him to the stand. The courtroom tightens, even the air feels different. He walks with measured confidence, wearing his signature dark jacket, half pastor, half showman. He swears in, looks straight at Christine, then at the judge. Can Your Honor, he begins, what's happening here isn't about legality, it's about perception. Yes, my father married my second wife's mother, but that doesn't define our spirit. We didn't build our family on paperwork, we built it on principle. Hey, he pauses, letting the words settle, before continuing with, I never broke the law. I never lied to my wives. I believed what I taught. Love multiplies. For a moment, even Christine seems disarmed by the steadiness in his tone. Then he glances toward Robyn, whose tears glisten in the light, and everything shifts again. The sincerity starts to sound like theater. Ken, the prosecutor leans forward. Mr. Brown, would you say that your version of faith allows for moral flexibility when it suits your family's image? Kody's nostrils flare. I'd say our faith teaches forgiveness, not perfection. The prosecutor doesn't bat an eye. Yet, the moment that family tree documents surfaced, your wives began leaving you. That's not forgiveness. That's fracture. The audience gasped. Ganek. A truth denied for years finally lands where it hurts most, in public view, with no cameras to edit it clean. Robyn suddenly stands up from the bench. He's telling the truth, she blurts. The judge frowns but doesn't stop her. He never meant to hurt anyone. He's just misunderstood. Ken? Her voice cracks halfway through the word. It's the same fragile tone viewers remember from the later season, torn between loyalty and exhaustion. Christine turns toward her. You're still defending him, even now? After all these years? Kang. Robyn just shakes her head and whispers, you never saw the burden he carried. For the first time, the courtroom feels alive, a living, breathing version of the TV show each. Voice a confession, each tier a headline. Can't. The judge taps the gavel once. Order. Continue, Mr. Brown. Kang. Kody exhales deeply, then looks up to the ceiling as if searching for some divine backup. Kang. The world thinks polygamy is chaos, he says slowly. But for us, it was sacred order. And if the world finds fault because our family tree loops instead of branches, so be it. Now he looks straight at Christine. You left because the cameras stopped loving us, not because I did. And gasps ripple through the gallery. Christine's eyes gleam, of course, not with sadness, but angry. I left because you stopped seeing us as people, she snaps. We were stories to you, Amos characters, in your version of faith. Okay. Her words hang heavy, slicing through the tension like glass. For the first time, Kody isn't the narrator of his story, he's the defendant in it. Ken, the judge breaks in. Mr. Brown, stay with the record. When your father married your wife's mother, were you aware of the relationship that was created then? Kody nods slowly. I did, but it didn't feel wrong. It felt destined. The judge raises an eyebrow. Destiny isn't a legal defense. Laughter ripples faintly through the room, silenced quickly by the gavel. King, the prosecutor flips another page. Mr. Brown, you talk of destiny, but you realize that this destiny blurred every emotional boundary your family relied on. Do you still stand by that choice? Kody's lips part, but no words emerge. His eyes flick toward Janelle, calm, restrained, the very person who once said he was her spiritual compass. She meets his gaze only for a second, before looking down. That silence speaks more loudly than testimony. Sometimes, the most painful evidence isn't written in ink. It's written in silence. Outside the courtroom windows, the desert sun beats down on Flagstaff like a hot spotlight nobody asked for. Inside, the Browns remain frozen in their own web of loyalty and regret. You okay? Christine's lawyer closes his folder and addresses the court. Your Honor, what we're seeing here isn't moral corruption, it's emotional consequence. This is what happens when a man builds faith, like a pyramid, with himself at the top and everyone else as foundation. Kang, Kody's attorney objects again. The judge sustains it, but the words linger. The hearing recesses for a break. Cameras flash. The hallway fills with whispers. Did you hear what she said? He called it destiny? This is worse than seasoned sherbad. Kody steps out into the hallway, shoulders tight. Janelle walks away without a word. Christine lingers, eyes fixed on the courtroom door as if it continues speaking to her. Robyn, who is last, whispers to herself, families aren't built in courtrooms, but even she doesn't sound convinced. When a secret becomes evidence, no family is ever the same, no matter how sacred. K. The judge's call for order to resume is immediately followed by the camera of memory panning out back to that table where that single marriage license began this whole spiral. The ink has, over time, faded. The signatures have remained clear. 2 marriages, 2 generations, one never-ending loop. And while the world debates what's legal or not, the Browns face a different question, one that law can't answer. If destiny can blur bloodlines, can it also mend broken faith? The courtroom feels smaller now, like the walls themselves have crept inward. The fluorescent light hums above, flickering in rhythm with the quickened breaths of everyone present. Christine sits on the witness stand again, palms flat against the oak surface, staring straight ahead. Her eyes are red but unyielding. She's no longer testifying as a wife or a believe. Elian, she's speaking as someone who's finally done holding her breath. I kept quiet because I thought silence was loyalty. She begins softly, but silence became my prison. The words hang like smoke. Kody looks away, his face unreadable. Janelle shifts in her seat, fingers twitching on her lap. Every courtroom has its moment when truth stops whispering and begins screaming. And this was that moment. Yukon Christine's lawyer steps closer. Mrs. Brown, when did you first realize your faith had turned into fear? Her laugh is shaky, bitter. When the word family started, meaning who was loyal to Kody, not who was loved by God. She turns to the judge. I knew about the step-sibling thing long before the show ever came on the air. We all did, but we were taught to call it God's weaving. You can't question divine patterns, only follow them. The only sound in the room is the scratching of pens. Kody tightens his grip on the table, knuckles pale. Okay? Then Janelle's voice cuts through, soft but clear. She's right. Every head turns. The judge raises an eyebrow. Mrs. Brown, would you like to clarify? Janelle gets up slowly, smoothing her skirt. I've been quiet long enough. I never wanted to be in this courtroom, but I need to say this because it's the truth. She faces the bench. Her voice is calm, but it's trembling inside. And when my mom married Kody's dad, I thought that was beautiful. 2 lonely hearts finding peace. But when I married Kody, I didn't see how tangled it made us, how confusing it would be for everyone else. And when Christine asked about it years later, I told her it didn't matter. But it did. Christine's lips quiver. Their eyes meet, 2 decades of shared motherhood, friendship, and jealousy colliding in one long stare. Bold retention line. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't come as an apology, it comes as a confession that finally breaks the silence. Flashback, desert, Iten Jolbite Jolsersan. Janelle sits on the porch of her small Utah home, looking up at the stars. She can hear her mother, and Win Brown, laughing inside. Through the window, she sees Kody, younger than, laughing with Meri. She looks down at her hands and whispers to herself, maybe this is the path I was meant for. Back in the courtroom, she wipes away a tear. I thought being part of something sacred would heal me, but if you mix faith and family wrongly, it doesn't heal. It hides the wound. Christine exhales shakily, nodding. For the first time, there's no rivalry in her eyes, just recognition. Kody leans forward. Janelle, you're twisting history, he interrupts. We were one family. You knew the principles. You cack. She turns toward him, her voice firm. Yes, I knew the principles, but I also knew the pain. You used faith like armor, Kody. You wore it to protect yourself from feeling guilty. Gaps ripple across the benches. The truth isn't shouted in anger. It's spoken quietly enough to make everyone else stop breathing. The judge looks down at his notes, then back up again. Mr. Brown, please refrain from interrupting. But Kody can't stay silent. His voice rises, shaky with anger. They're painting me as a villain because I believed in something bigger than myself. Christine snaps back. No, because you believed you were that something bigger. The room erupts in noise, lawyers jostling to have their say, spectators murmuring, flashbulbs popping. The gavel comes down hard twice before silence descends once more. In that silence, Janelle steps forward. Christine's not your enemy, Kody. She's just the first one who stopped being afraid of you. Her words fall like the final blow. Kody's eyes widen, hurt flickering beneath his pride. He opens his mouth, but nothing comes out of it. Every control empire in the end crumbles, not when the others attack it, But when the loyal ones walk away, the tension fractures into pieces. Robyn silently weeping, Meri gazing down at her hands clasped together, the reporters scratching furiously as if recording history. Christine gathers herself. Do you know what it's like to share a husband with your own stepfamily? To look at your mother-in-law and realize she's also your mother's sister-in-law? It's not sin, it's confusion. And confusion eats love alive. Kody looks stricken. We did what we had to for faith. You all agreed. Christine shakes her head. We agreed because we were afraid not to. Nobody spoke for what felt like a long second. The hum of the ceiling lights became the only sound. Janelle returns to her seat, almost to herself in a whisper. I thought that with time, understanding would come. But all I found was distance. The judge clears his throat. I think that's enough for today. This hearing was never about criminal guilt, but about clarity. And I believe clarity has been achieved. But even as he says it, the room doesn't feel clear at all. Heavier, that's how it feels like truth has only deepened the storm. Outside, thunder rumbles over Flagstaff. Reporters cluster by the courthouse doors, microphones ready. Through the window, flashes of lightning cut across the desert sky, reflecting off Kody's face as he gathers his notes. He looks smaller now, a man finally understanding that every belief he built might have been misinterpreted, not by the world, but by the women who once stood beside him. Christine simply walks by him without a word. Janelle does hold back before whispering, you could have saved us, you know? He doesn't answer. Bold retention line. When love becomes a sermon, hearts stop listening long before the congregation leaves. And back inside the courtroom, the judge's clerk collects the papers. The same folder marked marriage license, Iten Jolbite koshers. Its edges are worn, its ink fading, yet it carries more weight than ever. The camera of imagination stays on it as narration softens. One piece of paper, two signatures, 30 years of devotion and denial. The Browns aim to show the world love can multiply, but nobody told them that guilt does, too. The lights go out, cheers scrape against the floor as the family scatters to different exits, symbolic, inevitable. Christine steps into the rain first, face tilted upward, breathing freely for the first time. Janelle follows, her pace slower but sure. Inside, Kody remains seated, staring at the empty witness stand as though waiting for God to explain himself. The storm outside isn't the weather, it is all they refuse to face until now. A solitary clap of thunder booms as the screen fades to black. The narrator's final words then whisper softly, some truths aren't meant to destroy faith, they're meant to test whether faith was ever real. Single voice narration, cinematic tone shift, say bold retention lines, every Urbeck words, emotional and revelatory tone. Morning breaks over the courthouse with the uneasy stillness that follows a storm. Reporters have once again congregated, cameras humming, steaming cups of coffee in the cold Flagstaff air. Inside, the courtroom feels different today. Emptier, perhaps heavier, as if everyone knows today cannot end the same way it began. Kody sits alone at the table, flipping through a folder he hasn't touched since the trial began. His expression is tired, worn, almost human again. Janelle and Christine sit several rows apart. Neither looks at the other. Robyn, in dark navy, clutches a notebook to her chest as if it's armor. The judge enters, his expression unreadable. We're here today to review the new evidence submitted overnight. His tone is calm, but the subtext burns like a fuse. Bold retention line, sometimes the most dangerous evidence isn't discovered, it's remembered. Christine's lawyer rises. Your Honor, late in the evening, our team received a copy of financial disclosures tied to Brown Family Entertainment LLC, the entity that manages the family's public appearances and TLC royalty. Kody's head snaps up. His attorney leans over and whispers urgently. Christine's lawyer doesn't stop. These records suggest that while the family operated as one spiritual household, the financial distributions were far from equal. A ripple passes through the courtroom. Janelle's eyebrows furrow. Christine looks down, her jaw tight. The lawyer continues with, for years, mister. Brown publicly claims shared resources, yet the accounts show consistent funneling toward a single branch of the family. Cap. All eyes turn to Robyn. She freezes, her lips trembling. Kody rises abruptly. That's irrelevant. We're not on trial for business arrangements. The gavel slams down. Sit down, Mr. Brown. Kody hesitates, then complies. The air feels thick once more. Cack, bold, retention line. When the truth shifts from personal to financial, love stories turn into ledgers. Christine's attorney passes the documents forward. On screen, projected across the courtroom wall, appear 3 columns of names and dollar amounts. Christine's line flatlines midway through season. Sure look. Janelle's drops even lower. Robyn's, meanwhile, surges upward. The silence is unbearable. Christine whispers, almost to herself, so it was never faith. It was funding. Robyn shakes her head, tears spilling. No, that's not what it looks like. The kids needed. Christine interrupts, her voice rising. Don't talk about kids. Children together. We all hang. Order, please, interjects the judge, but his words have barely landed, overwhelmed, as they are, by the emotions in the room. Kody finally speaks, voice strained but still defensive. I managed the money for the whole family. Robyn just handled logistics. There's no deception here, just the cost of keeping 16 lives running. Christine's lawyer responds coolly. And yet, only one household had a new house, a new car, and a separate production deal. A single tear escapes down Robyn's face. She looks to Kody as if waiting for rescue, but his gaze drops to the table. The moment you stop protecting someone is the moment they realize how alone they've always been. Ink flashback. A sunny afternoon years earlier, Kody and Robyn sign mortgage papers in Arizona, smiling for TLC cameras. Christine and Janelle are seen waving awkwardly in the background, oblivious that the property title would reflect only one couple's names. Back to the present, Christine's lawyer circles the signature in red. The same document served as collateral for the LLC loan. In short, Your Honor, the spiritual head of this family built an empire on shared faith and private control. Kody's hands clench into fists. You're twisting everything. I carried this family for decades. Every dollar, every headline, every prayer. You think any of them could have done it without me? The judge gazes at him quietly. Mr. Brown, leadership and ownership are not the same thing. That line is a verdict in and of itself. Robyn tries to speak, voice trembling. He didn't mean to. He was trying to protect everyone. Christine finally turns to her. Protect or possess? Janelle's voice then joins in softly. He never meant harm, but he never shared control either. 3 wives, 3 versions of the same pain fill the room like a chorus of ghosts. The courtroom no longer feels like judgment, but rather like a collective mourning of the life they had built and then lost. The judge motions to the clerk, who brings in another document, a chain of emails between TLC producers and Kody's people. One line glows on screen. Kody likes storylines that showcase him as the leader, with the final decision-making power. Again, the judge raises his eyes. This suggests deliberate shaping of the public narrative for profit. Do you deny this? Kody sighs, exhausted. No, but that's television. People wanted a leader, not a committee. Christine mutters, we wanted a husband, not a headline. A single camera flash goes off, someone capturing the moment already destined for the tabloids by morning. The judge leans forward. Mr. Brown, you have spoken of destiny, but destiny does not absolve you of consequence. You built a family that blurred bloodlines, faith, and finances. Tell me, was it worth the cost? Kody hesitates. For the first time, he looks truly uncertain. I don't know, he says softly. It used to feel like it was. The courtroom falls silent. The most confident of all men trembles when these are the receipts of his own choices. Janelle speaks up once more, her tone calm but cutting. You wanted legacy, Kody? But legacy doesn't come from control. It comes from character, Christine says quietly, and maybe the hardest truth is that none of us ever really knew you. Oh no. Kody closes his eyes. His shoulders slump. The storm that had been brewing across 3 decades finally settles, not in anger, but in exhaustion. The judge clears his throat. We'll reconvene tomorrow for closing remarks. But before we adjourn, he looks down at the faded folder on his desk, the same one marked marriage license, 10 GB. This case began with one family tree twist. It ends with proof that roots aren't always stable when watered with secrecy. He bangs the gavel once. Outside, the courthouse doors open to blinding sunlight. The reporters swarm again, shouting questions. Yell. Christine, do you feel vindicated? And Kody, any regrets? Robyn, will you stand by him? For Hags Hainok restand bonds. Nobody responds. The family walks on, each person going a different way. Robyn lingers for a moment, watching Kody walk away alone, his silhouette framed in the harsh glare of the desert. Sometimes punishment isn't given by a judge, it's in watching the people you love stop walking beside you. Nye. As the credits of reality and truth merge together, the voice of the narrator softens, once they stood in front of cameras promising unity forever. Now only the paperwork remains, ink on contracts, marriages, and memories. The Brown family wanted to prove love could multiply, but multiplication only works when everyone shares the equation. The sound of footsteps recedes. The last light glints off that single folder, still lying on the judge's desk, its edges curling like history refusing to stay closed. And as the screen fades to black, one question remains. If faith built the Brown family, then what will rebuild them now, when it has fractured? Kank. The hum of the ceiling fan, the tapping of shoes against tile. The Browns enter separately this time around. Christine enters first, calm but tired. Janelle follows, hands clasped. Robyn enters last, head bowed. And Kody. He looks like a man who's aged 20 years overnight. He takes his seat without looking at anyone. The courtroom clerk announces, case, Arcersif B, Brown family versus Brown family, continuation for summary judgment. The judge clears his throat. This case has never been about criminality. It's been about clarity. And today, we find some He pauses, his eyes scanning the faces before him, faces that once shared homes, meals, and dreams. What this family represents, he says, is the difference between spiritual unity and personal accountability. Inek. Even the strongest bonds can break when truth becomes too heavy for love to carry. He picks up the faded folder once more, the marriage license. Itenjobai Choshers. This document started it all, he says in a hushed tone, a union that created not just a family, but a legacy of entwined faith, television, and time. And turning to Kody, he says, you once said love multiplies, but multiplication without fairness becomes imbalance. This family does not need more faith, they need forgiveness. Kody nods faintly, his lips pressed tight. For once, there's no sermon left in him. Christine exhales, a mix of relief and sadness. Janelle closes her eyes. Robyn silently weeps. The judge sets the folder down. Legally, this case is closed. Emotionally, I suspect it never will be. The gavel strikes one final time. Outside the courthouse, the sky is pale gold, the sort of mourning that feels like an apology. Reporters call out questions, but no one answers. Christine walks through them, smiling faintly through her tears. Kang, I thought I wanted justice, she murmurs to the cameras, but maybe I just wanted peace. Janelle joins her, slipping an arm through hers. Peace takes time, she says, but we're getting there. She stands, frozen at the steps of the courthouse, watching Kody walk toward the parking lot alone. He was supposed to lead us to heaven, she whispers. Then, in a near whisper to herself, but maybe heaven starts when you stop following someone else. The end of control is the beginning of clarity. Kody hesitates at the door to his truck. For a moment, he looks back at the courthouse, at the women who once defined his world. His reflection stares back in the windshield, older, smaller, quieter. He takes a deep breath and drives away, disappears down the desert road where it all began. Ikang. Inside the courtroom, the janitor collects papers that are left behind. The marriage license fluttered off of the desk onto the floor, face up. The ink is faded, but the names remain clear. Cheryl Usher, William Brown, the first union, the beginning of it all. As the janitor replaces it on the judge's desk, the camera of imagination lingers on it, a symbol of faith and human fragility. Christine's voice, in narration, fades in. For years, we thought that our story was about polygamy, about faith, about Kody, but really, it was about women finding their way back to themselves. Janelle adds softly, and about realizing that love doesn't multiply when one person keeps the calculator. The desert wind suddenly whips up, blowing dust across the steps of the courthouse. Distant thunder growls. For once, it doesn't feel like warning, but release. Ache. Bold retention line. Sometimes the final verdict isn't spoken by a judge, it's whispered by freedom itself. The music swells. A slow piano under a dim sunset. A camera pans across empty chairs, folded papers, and the quiet Flagstaff skyline. Then, the narrator's final words close the story. Families end, stories change, but truth remains. It waits patiently, even when no one wants to face it. And when it's finally heard, it sets everyone free. Do you think that Kody's fall was a punishment? Or just the price for living without limits? You can drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be reading every one of them. The courthouse lights fall behind them, replaced by the soft glow of an Arizona sunset. Christine and Janelle walk beside each other, the desert wind lifting strands of their hair as laughter, small and fragile but real, slips between them. For the first time in years, they aren't walking away from something, they're walking toward peace. Robyn steps out last, the phone in her hand, staring at the family group chat still named Forever Brown. She hesitates, then types out one word, peace, and hits send. Inside his truck, Kody watches as the message appears. His face softens, and for the first time in months, he smiles, not the confident grin from TV, but something quieter. He starts the engine, and the camera pans to the wide desert road ahead, glowing in golden light. Bold retention line. Even the most broken stories find new beginnings. Once pride finally gives way to peace.